only now, and that lasts forever. And we have the opportunity and the privilege to reallocate the resources of the world away from fear towards love, and that's a job of enormous privilege and incredible abundance and great joy. So that's what I think.
So I was, in my own mind, I was looking at the last several thousand years and how we've evolved as a species that's focusing on different activities. And we can think of, maybe the last 5,000 years having gone through a dominant activity where one activity dominates humankind. And that activity then becomes the source of both wealth and power. So as hunter-gatherers, when we first appeared on this planet and we started to gather in tribes and we started to become hunters and gatherers, then the source of wealth was obviously things that helped the hunt, weapons. Unfortunately, some of us are still stuck in that phase. So, we're still seeking power and wealth through the sale of weapons. But as the activity moved from being hunter-gatherers to the age of agriculture, then you suddenly see that the dominant activity is agriculture, horticulture. The sources of wealth and power are products that come from the earth, animals and animal husbandry and agricultural products. As we move from the age of agriculture to the age of industry, then of course, not that the previous activity goes away, it's included and transcended, but let's say, dominant activities, the age of industry, then suddenly the sources of wealth and power become machines, and therefore things that are helping us make machines, minerals, raw materials, oil. This is part of the industrial age. As we move from the age of industry to the age of information, suddenly we see now the emerging economies of the world and the sources of wealth and power are a microchip. What's a microchip? It's a piece of dust with information in it. And those countries, those communities that are having this insight are suddenly becoming powerful and wealthy. But the age of information is now in the midst of a transformation as well. We are moving into the age of knowledge. Information, when it becomes context-bound, when it is contextual, there's knowledge in that, then suddenly knowledge becomes the source of wealth and power in the world. Today, you can go to Beijing and you can get an education from Harvard because Harvard has infiltrated through information networks into the education of people in Beijing or anywhere else. But as we move from the age of knowledge into a wisdom-based culture, which is what Lynne is really talking about, because as Jonas Salk, the very eminent humanitarian biologist, evolutionary biologist said, the next phase of our evolution has to be metabiological evolution. Meta means beyond. So metabiological evolution is the evolution of consciousness and the evolution of the consciousness that we have. He said then wisdom will become the criterion for evolution. It will no longer be about survival of the fittest. That phase of evolution is over. We have survived because we were fit, and now we are a permanently victorious species. But one of the things that happens with permanently victorious species is they risk their own extinction. We are now the predator, and we are the most dangerous animal on the planet. And if we have to survive and move to the next phase of our evolution, somebody said, don't worry about the planet. The planet has survived. Dinosaurs have come and gone, and other species have come and gone. And, if we continue to violate nature, we also will be one of those that came and went. Nature might be saying the human species was a good experiment that didn't work. But we have this ability right now that we can use the resources of our consciousness to create an age of wisdom. And wisdom can become the next phase of our evolution. And the difference between wisdom and knowledge is that knowledge can be used for both divine and diabolical purposes. You can create nuclear weapons, and you can create technologies that will heal the world and repair the ecosystem and reverse global warming and all kinds of things. But wisdom is that knowledge that heals, that creates well-being in the total chain of being. Well-being of the physical body, well-being of our emotions, well-being of our relationships, well-being of our ecosystem, and well-being in healing the rift in our collective soul. So even if you were thinking practically, you would say to yourself that the only way to harness both wealth and power in the future will be through wisdom technologies, through wisdom methodologies. And wisdom is that which encompasses well-being of the total ecosystem, the chain of being, the web of life. And that well-being can come about only if we have a shift in our internal consciousness, where love and compassion and caring and interdependency and the inseparability of biological organisms, environment, and our spirit is seen as one continuum of consciousness. And what Lynne is helping me realize is that if we do this in our own consciousness, then sufficiency and abundance flows. In the last few weeks, as I've been traveling, I've been listening to her tapes. You know, it's a big responsibility for all of us to usher in or midwife this age of wisdom. And so I've been listening to her tapes, and you know, the last tape I heard, you said some very profound things that I immediately noted down on my little trio here, and I read them every day about, you know, how to live a life of sufficiency. You had about 5 or 6 or 7 points, and you articulate them so beautifully that I'd like you to share them with the audience. And if you don't remember what you said, I have it on my trio.
Well, I'm not sure what you have in your trio, but there is a principle of sufficiency. And by the way, just to back up a little bit to say that most of the prevailing climate of thinking, not wisdom, but thinking, is that there's not enough to go around and more is better and that you've got to get yours and someone's going to be left out. That mindset of scarcity, which drives us and often sends us in directions we don't mean to go, and we live in the tyranny